Hello, my name is Elizabeth Robinson, and I am in Canada today because in the early 1900s, my paternal grandfather accepted the Government of Canada's offer of free land in the West to anyone willing to build a home and farm that land. Grandpa and his wife were from Belfast in Northern Ireland. They were city people, not farmers. He was trained as an accountant. He came to Saskatchewan alone, spent a year with another farmer learning the ropes, and then built a little log house on the prairie. Then my grandmother arrived, and in less than 10 years they had 6 children. After several years of growing wheat, Grandpa became involved with the co-op movement. The family moved into a nearby town, and he worked at the co-op grain elevator. I recently learned that my grandfather's piece of land was in Treaty 6 territory, which includes a large chunk of central Alberta and Saskatchewan. Treaty 6 is one of the 11 treaties signed between 1871 and 1921 by the Crown and First Nations. Through these treaties, without necessarily a full understanding of Western concepts of land ownership, Indigenous peoples gave up legal rights to their land, except for small parcels set aside as reserves. My dad was the oldest son, kind of bookish. He became a radar technician and joined the Canadian Air Force when World War II started. After the war, he got a job with the federal government and settled in Ottawa with my mother, a British war bride. I grew up there in a middle-class suburb. Near to where we lived, there were wooded areas and undeveloped fields by the Ottawa River. I spent many happy hours exploring these places on foot or by bike with friends. I was around 8 when I first thought of being a doctor. The only doctor I had any contact with as a child was a pediatrician who had a home office near where I lived. He would come to our school sometimes. When I saw how people respected him, I thought it would be nice to have that kind of recognition and respect. Also around the age of 8, our family drove to Montreal to pick up my great-aunt who was traveling from Belfast on a ship. She arrived at the port of Montreal on Rue de la Commune. I liked the look of Montreal, and after my BSc at Queen's University, was accepted at McGill's medical school. I was fortunate to have received a bursary from the Ontario government which covered my tuition and living expenses. We were 15 women out of 130 students in my medical school class. My favorite areas of medicine were pediatrics and obstetrics. After medical school, I spent a year training in pediatrics at the Montreal Children's Hospital. Then I switched to family medicine. I wanted to be a doctor for women as well as for children. I was not that interested in being a specialist at a big hospital, and I did some of my training at the Point St. Charles Community Clinic, which had recently been started by McGill medical students. That's how I got started in medicine.